6, which is on consumer behavior and utility theory. Okay. Assalamualaikum again to everyone. So hope everybody is keeping well. And I heard some very tired voices. So hope that everyone can get some food and get some energy. So before we start our online class for today, there are a few important announcements. Number one, as I have mentioned previously, our midterm exam, which represent 20% of the total assessment, is scheduled on the 2nd of July during class hours. Secondly, as part of this emergency remote teaching and learning exercise, some of our assignments will be converted into exercises. These exercises is not like the quiz that we have. The quiz will be closed book, no discussion, and so on. Yeah. However, for exercises, there should be discussions as well as you are able to refer to your books and other materials to help you solve the exercise questions. So the first exercise, we had one revision exercise during the first week of our online teaching and learning. However, because at that point, the guideline said that it will not be included in the assessment, so I was not able to include the marks for that revision exercise for our assessment. Yeah, but next class on Thursday, next class today is 23rd, 24th, 25th of June. We will have exercise 1, which will cover topic 4 and topic 5. Yeah, topic 4 is on the market failures and externalities, and topic 5, which is on the elasticities. And I really hope that you are able to watch the video lecture that I have prepared for topic 5. Yeah, there are 2 video lectures. One part of it focus on price elasticity of demand, and the second part of the video lecture discusses the remaining 3, which is price elasticity of supply, cross price elasticity of demand, and also income elasticity of demand. Okay, so next class on Thursday, you can log into iTa'lim, and exercise 1 will be open from 11:30 to 3:30. Yeah, 11:30 to 3:30 for both sessions. Yeah, so please take the opportunity to do the exercise questions, improve your understanding of the topic, and if you have issues, then you can discuss among your classmates. Yeah, or refer to the textbook or the slides or any other materials that you want to consult with. Yeah. Okay, any question before we start our class for today?
Sir, is it going to be multiple choice questions?
What?
Is it going to be multiple choice questions?
So it will have some multiple choice, but I think it will also have some fill in the blanks kind of questions. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Again, it covers topic 4 and topic 5. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Salam, yes.
What about the midterm, sir?
Midterm will be on the 2nd of July. It will have multiple choice questions and also some short essay questions. Okay, we will have it during class hours. You need to log on iTa'lim and attempt the question during class hours.
Inshallah. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let me share my screen to present the slides. Yeah. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Right. So let us begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We continue with topic 6, consumer behavior, which relates to consumer utility theory, how consumer maximizes utility in the purchase of goods and services. These are some of the objectives of the chapter. We will look at the concept of utility, how we define utility, what are some of the issues related to utility. Basically, the study of utility theory has two approaches. Yeah? The first approach is what we call the cardinal utility theory. Cardinal utility theory, which assumes that utility can be measured and there's a standard measurement for utility, which is called utils. So in this approach, we will talk about total utility and marginal utility, and also the law of diminishing marginal utility. And then we will look at marginal utility to price ratio, or what we call marginal utility per dollar. And we will look at a numerical example where we look at how a consumer maximizes utility given the limited income that the consumer has. And what happened when there is a change in the price of the goods to the consumer's purchase decision. And from there, we are able to derive the demand curve. Yeah. And we will also see how the income and substitution effects can be reflected by the purchase decisions of the consumer. The second approach to consumer utility theory is what we call the ordinal approach, yeah? Using the index curve model. Ordinal means assumes that we are not able to measure objectively the level of consumer satisfaction. What we can do is only to order them. Yeah? Order means this one is preferred as compared to this one. In other words, A is preferred over B, B is preferred over C, and so on. Yeah, without prescribing utils or specific measurement for each of the bundle. We will discuss all of this later. Yeah. Okay. For today's lecture, our discussion will focus on the first approach, which is the cardinal utility approach, where we assume that the utility or the level of satisfaction of a consumer can be measured using a standard measurement. Okay, what is utility? The level of satisfaction a consumer derive from the consumption of goods and services. Yeah, so it refers to the level of satisfaction. Whether it is useful or not, it's very subjective. Yeah, for example, someone is enjoying a certain good, for example, smoking cigarette or smoking vape or abusing drugs. Yeah? So for this group of people, they consider this to be a high level of satisfaction, and therefore they are willing to pay a very high price for those goods. However, these goods are not useful. In fact, they are dangerous, harmful to the consumer themselves. Another example, a painting. Yeah? What is the physical or practical use of a painting? A painting is just to be hung on the wall, and then the owner of the house or the visitors to the house will be enjoying the beauty of the painting. Yeah? So there's no practical usefulness, but there is a lot of satisfaction derived from there. Yeah. So usefulness and satisfaction may not necessarily be together. There are examples where usefulness and satisfaction goes together. For example, you buy a nice new car with all the specification, with all the technology, and you are able to practically enjoy this luxury in the car and also use the technology available in the car. So it has practical usefulness and it creates a lot of satisfaction. Yeah. Another example, you purchase a nice new laptop. It has a lot of power, memory, very fast processor, very nice display. Yeah, so it creates a lot of satisfaction, and at the same time, it gives you a lot of practical use. Yeah, so it can go together, but it may not necessarily be the same. Yeah, so satisfaction and usefulness is not the same. Yeah, in some instances, satisfaction is derived without a clear practical usefulness from the consumption of the good. Satisfaction can also be subjective in nature. You can have a twin going to the same restaurant, ordering the same food, enjoying the same environment, being served by the same waiter, but the satisfaction derived from consuming the food may significantly vary between the two. Yeah. So because people have differences in their taste and preference, and therefore whatever they feel inside, the level of satisfaction that they feel inside is very, very subjective and difficult to quantify as well. How you want to measure the satisfaction if there's the feeling of satisfaction is inside you. Yeah. And let's say if I ask you, what is your level of satisfaction? You say 5. And you ask me, what is my level of satisfaction? I say 5. There's no guarantee that your 5 and my 5 is equal. Yeah? Because you can have a very high standard. So 5 means very, very excellent. Yeah. I can have a very low standard. My 5 is maybe slightly above average. Yeah. So different people have a different subjective valuation of satisfaction, and it is not easy to quantify this and compare the satisfaction of one person with the other. Okay. Now, we are now discussing on the first approach, which is the cardinal utility theory, where we assume that we are able to measure the level of satisfaction of a consumer by using an imaginary unit called utils. For example, if we want to measure temperature, we have a standard unit of measurement, yeah, Celsius. Yeah, how much what would be the temperature in this room, yeah, in terms of the degree of Celsius. Or if we want to measure distance, yeah, how far from UIA Gombak to UIA campus in Kuantan, yeah. So there is a distance, there is a measurement for that distance, which is in kilometers. How tall are you? So we measure height using centimeters, yeah? Or some may use feet and inches. Yeah. So these are standard measurement which we are able to compare from one measurement to another measurement objectively. We can be confident that 100 kilometer is double the length of 50 kilometers. So the unit of measurement is standardized. So we are trying to use this standard measurement, standard unit of measurement in the form of an imaginary unit called utils. So one util represent one unit of satisfaction of a consumer. Yeah? Remember, this is just an assumption. Yeah? Total utility is the total amount of satisfaction a consumer derive from consuming a certain number of goods, certain units of goods. Yeah? For example, I just took 3 slices of bread for lunch with curry. Yeah? So what is the total utility from my lunch earlier? The first slice of bread, let's say 10 utils. The second one, 8 utils. The third one, 5 utils. So since I have taken 3 slices of bread, 10 plus 8 plus 5, my total utility will be 23 utils for the lunch that I have just had. Yeah. Marginal utility, so whenever we talk about marginal values, we are talking about additional values. So in the case of this, marginal utility refers to additional satisfaction that someone derive by consuming an additional unit of the goods. Okay? Okay. The law of diminishing marginal utility refers to the situation in which the additional utility that the consumer derive by consuming additional units decline as the number of unit increases. Yeah, for example, in my earlier case, the first slice of bread that I have took for lunch gave me 10 utils. The second one only gave me 8 utils. The third one only gave me 5 utils. Yeah. So even though I gain satisfaction for each of the slices of the bread, but the second one gave me lower, the third one gave me even lower additional utilities. Yeah. We call this the law of diminishing marginal utility. Diminishing here means declining, marginal means extra, utility means satisfaction. As a consumer continue to consume the same good with additional units, the additional level of satisfaction will decline. And we will see that this law of diminishing marginal utility will result in the law of demand. In other words, the quantity demanded will go down when the price of the goods goes up, and vice versa. When the price is lower, the quantity demanded for the product will go up. So we will prove this relationship today, later on. So far, okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah? All right. Okay.
Okay.
I just want to hear your voices. Yeah? Okay, this is an example of the marginal and total utility values for a consumer who is consuming tacos for lunch. Yeah, this is taken from the textbook. Tacos is a Mexican dish, yeah, popular in the US. Maybe an equivalent in Malaysia is what? If you know that dish lah. So it shows the total utility and marginal utility values with additional units of tacos consumed. When the consumer didn't eat any tacos, so units is 0, then total utility is also 0. For the first unit, yeah, when the consumer eats 1 unit of taco, the total utility increased from 0 to 10. When 2 units are consumed, then total utility increase from 10 to 18. When 3 units is consumed, 18 increase to, is it 24? 3 units, 24, right?
Yes, sir.
4 units, 28. 5 units, 30. 6 unit remains at 30. 7 unit, it becomes 28. Okay. So these are total utility values. But when we talk about marginal utility values, we are looking at the differences. Yeah? Marginal values require two values to be computed. For example, from 0 to 1 unit of tacos, total utility increase from 0 to 10 utils. So the difference is 10 utils, right? So it means that when the consumer consumes the first unit of taco, marginal utility is 10 utils. When the consumer consumes the second unit of taco, the total utility increased from 10 to 18. So it means that the marginal utility is the difference, which is 18 minus 10. And therefore, marginal utility for the second unit of taco is 8 utils. What is the marginal utility for the third taco? Anyone?
6.
6 utils. For the fourth?
4.
4. For the fifth?
2.
2. For the sixth?
0.
0. And for the seventh?
-2.
-2. Okay. Please observe the choice of words I'm using here. When we refer to total utility, we are referring to 1 unit of taco consumed, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, 5 units, and so on. But when we refer to the marginal utility, we should say the first unit, the second unit, the third unit, the fourth unit, the fifth unit, and so on. Yeah, first unit refers to the consumption from 0 to 1. Second means the movement from 1 to 2. Yeah, so total utility, you use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. Marginal utility, you use first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. I hope this is clear. Okay, so let us look at the patterns for marginal utility and total utility. Okay, what happens to total utility? If you look at the curve for total utility, the total utility will continue to increase from 0 to 10 to 18 to 24 to 28, yeah, and to 30. And then there's no change. 30 to 30, then only it goes down from 30 to 28. Still remember the law of diminishing marginal utility before this, right? So where does it happen? When does it happen? At which level of consumption? The law of diminishing marginal utility happens
6.
at what level of consumption? Somebody said 6. Anybody else?
5.
5. Anybody else? Nobody else. Okay. The answer is 2. Why? Because we are referring to marginal utility, not total utility. Yeah? Law of diminishing marginal utility. When does marginal utility start to fall? with the second unit, right? The first unit marginal utility is 10. The second unit marginal utility is 8. Right? The third unit marginal utility is 6 and so on. Yeah. So marginal utility started to fall immediately with the second unit of the good. Okay. So that is why if you look at the total utility curve, even though the total utility curve is moving up, but you see that the slope is becoming flatter and flatter. Up until the point between 5 tacos and 6 tacos, the total utility curve remains flat. Yeah, flat. 30 at 5 tacos, 30 utils. At 6 tacos, also 30 utils. And when the 7th taco is consumed, total utility started to fall from 30 down to 28. And this is because marginal utility has become negative. Okay. So when marginal utility becomes negative, we don't consider this to be utility anymore. We call it disutility. Yeah. Like comfort, discomfort. So in this example, utility refers to the positive satisfaction. Yeah, from one up to even 6 lah. So because it is still zero utility, zero additional satisfaction. But the moment you consume the 7th unit of taco, total utility becomes lower, marginal utility becomes negative. Therefore, we call this disutility or negative utility. Right? So I repeat again, the law of diminishing marginal utility does not happen when the 6th taco is consumed because additional marginal utility is 0, or when the 7th taco is consumed when the marginal utility becomes negative. It happens in this example at the second unit when marginal utility started to fall. Okay. There is also a possibility that marginal utility may initially increase before declining. Yeah. As you can see in this table, immediately with the second unit, marginal utility started to fall. But there are many instances where marginal utility may initially increase before it goes down. Okay, example. Let's say you never played any games, and then your friend invited you to play some games with him or with her. So the first round, or you feel excited, yeah, and then you enjoy, yeah, you enjoy. However, you are still learning, and therefore the enjoyment may not be optimum. So what happened? You challenge for the second round. So in the second round, you already had some experience before that. You know, you are more comfortable, and then you may be able to do few other tricks, yeah, or strategy which you could not do it in the first round. So your excitement plus your ability to perform better increase your satisfaction in the second round. Yeah. In fact, it may also even be higher in the third round. But after some time, you feel exhausted, tired, and so on, then the marginal utility will start to fall. So this is possible. Initially increase, and then it may decline afterwards. Or another example, anybody like durian? You know, durian is season. Huh? I'm not sure the younger generation nowadays, they don't like durian. Even my children, they cannot even smell durian. So, what a pity.
Durian, sit down, sit down.
Sedap, Okay. Let's say you haven't tried durian this time around because the season has just started. So you manage to get some, and then you take the first one. Your taste bud is trying to adjust with the new flavor and so on. So the first one, you may not be enjoying that much, yeah, because your mouth, your taste bud has not been prepared optimally, yeah, to absorb all the flavor and taste of the durian. So you take the second one, then you feel all the flavor, yeah. So the satisfaction may slightly increase, yeah. And then how about the third one? Maybe even higher, and then after that, it will start to go down. Yeah? So it is possible that initially marginal utility may increase, but after that it will start to fall. But in this example, the one that I am showing on the slide, marginal utility immediately fall with the second unit. Yeah, so marginal utility does not increase initially and after that fall. Yeah? Marginal utility in this example immediately fall with the second unit. Okay, before we look at a numerical example on the steps for a consumer to maximize utility, let us look at some of the assumptions governing the consumer utility theory. The first one, we assume that the consumer is a rational consumer. Remember in our first topic, yeah, the economic perspective, purposeful behavior. So the behavior of an economic agent refers to the people who are making economic decisions. For example, consumer, producer, resource owners, and if we are able to extend that to organization, businesses, government, and so on. So in this example, an economic agent is the consumer. Yeah? So the behavior of the consumer must be consistent with his or her objective. Right? So we assume that a rational consumer will make decisions which is consistent with the objective of maximizing his or her satisfaction from the consumption of goods and services. Yeah? If the consumer is not rational, we cannot make any forecast of their purchase decision. Yeah? Irrational consumer, you cannot predict what they will do. Yeah? But rational consumer, we can predict. A rational consumer will try as possible to maximize their level of satisfaction. Yeah? So because of that, we are able to come up with some understanding of what would be the behavior of that consumer in line with his or her objective of maximizing utility. Clear preferences. Yeah? So we assume that the rational consumer has clear preferences. He or she knows what what his or her preference towards the goods and services, and able to identify their level of satisfaction. Yeah. For example, if you go to a restaurant with your friend and your friend cannot decide what to order, yeah, many times this happen, right? Cannot decide what to order. The waiter have come by for 2-3 times, but your friend still could not decide. Yeah. So this is an example of a consumer without clear preference. Yeah. Even after the waiter gave the menu, so the options are clear, the prices are clear, he or she cannot decide what to order. Yeah? So no preference from one meal to the other meal in the menu. So this is an example of consumer without clear preference. So we assume here that the consumer has a clear preference and know how much is the satisfaction that he or she will derive from one product as compared to another product. Prices of the product, budget constraint. It means that the consumer has limited budget. Let's say you allocate certain amount of money to spend on two products. Yeah, so there's a budget constraint, and the products has a price in the market. Yeah, so your ability to buy the two product depends on the income that you have as well as on the price of the products in the market. Okay, before we start our utility maximization exercise, let's look at the concept of marginal utility per dollar. Okay, so we are able to understand from our earlier discussion that a consumer would want to maximize satisfaction. So if a consumer is given two options, let's say whether you want to buy a new pair of shoe or you want to buy a new handbag. The new pair of shoe will give you 100 utils, but the new handbag will give you 150 utils. Which of the two will you choose?
The handbag.
So the ladies will prefer handbag all the time, right? No. Because in this example, the handbag will give us 150 utils, right? But the shoe will only give us 100 utils. But is this the only consideration when we buy? When we want to make purchase decision? What else we need to consider?
Price.
The price, right? Okay. Suppose that the price of the shoe is 100 ringgit and the price of the handbag is 200 ringgit. Which one will be a better value for money? The shoe or the handbag?
The shoes.
The shoes, right? Because you pay 100 ringgit, you get 100 utils. In other words, for every 1 ringgit you pay for the shoes, you will get 1 util. Yeah, 1 ringgit, 1 util. However, for the handbag, you need to pay 200 ringgit, but you only get 150 utils. So how many utils per dollar? 150 divided by 200 ringgit. So marginal utility per dollar means here per price. Yeah. So in our context, it's marginal utility per ringgit. So marginal utility per 1 ringgit is 150 utils divided by 200 ringgit. Therefore, it's only 0.75 utils. Yeah? So 1 ringgit that you pay for the shoes will give you 1 util. Every 1 ringgit you pay for the handbag will only give you 0.75 utils. So which one is a better value for money? The shoes, right? So that is why in our purchase decisions, we need to make adjustment to the marginal utility with the price of the product in order for us to compare between alternative purchase decisions. Okay, let's take a numerical example. What would be the utility maximizing combination of apples and oranges if, number one, the income that we allocated for this, the money that we want to spend for this is 10 ringgit. And the price of apple is 1 ringgit. And the price of oranges is 2 ringgit. These are the conditions, right? And then the consumer has clear preferences between apple and oranges. And these clear preferences are given in the form of the amount of utils that the consumer will derive for every units of apple and every units of oranges consumed. If you look at the table, you have a table here or not? Do you have a table here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The first unit of apple give the consumer 10 utils. The second one give the consumer 8 utils.
Yes, sir.
The third one, 7 utils. The fourth one, 6 utils, and so on. Okay. However, we need to make adjustment with the price of apple. Since the price of apple is 1 ringgit, so the marginal utility per price, marginal utility per price or marginal utility per ringgit or marginal utility per dollar will be 10 divided by 1 for the first apple, 8 divided by 1 for the second apple, 7 divided by 1 for the third apple, 6 divided by 1 for the fourth apple, and so on, right? So since the price is 1, then the marginal utility and the marginal utility per dollar or per price, they are the same. Okay, let's turn to the one on the right here, which is the utility for oranges. For the first one, marginal utility is 24, but the price of orange is 2 ringgit, right, per orange. So we need to make that adjustment. 24 divided by 2. So marginal utility per dollar or per price for the first orange is 12. Marginal utility per price for the second orange is 20 divided by 2, which is 10. Marginal utility for the third orange is 18 divided by 2, which is 9. Marginal utility for the fourth orange, marginal utility per dollar for the fourth orange is 16 divided by 2 equals to 8, and so on. So far, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no problem, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let us try to see if we want to buy apples and oranges, what would be the first purchase from this? Should we buy the first unit of orange or the first unit of apple?
First unit of orange.
The first unit of orange will give us 12 marginal utility per dollar. The first unit of apple will give us 10 marginal utility per dollar. So the first orange gives us higher value for money, right? So we buy the first orange. Can you draw a basket? Yeah. Take out a piece of paper, draw a basket, our shopping basket, and put one orange inside that basket. Okay, done?
Done.
All right. Now, let us continue shopping. So, we have already one orange in the basket. So, our next purchase decision will be either the second orange or the first apple. So, which one should we purchase? Second orange or first apple?
Second orange.
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 Second orange will give us how much? 10
10.
marginal
10.
utility per dollar, right?
Yes.
First apple,
Apple. 10.
8.
First apple.
we
10.
haven't purchased any apples, right? So
10.
we haven't purchased any apple. So we should consider the purchase between second orange or first apple. All right. Look at your basket. You only have one orange in that basket, right? So now we are considering to buy either the second orange or the first apple. Okay, so second orange give us 10 marginal utility per dollar. First apple give us
10.
10.
10 as well, right? Okay, so what should we do?
Take both.
We should take both because both maximizes our utility. Okay, so whenever the marginal utility per dollar for the two products are the same, the consumer reach his or her equilibrium position where the money that being spent for both product give an equal value for money, right? Both give the consumer 10 marginal utility per dollar. Yeah, so the consumer will reach an equilibrium in this position. So the consumer should take both. Yeah. So put one more orange and one apple in your basket. So how many oranges and apples in your basket now?
2 oranges, 1 apple.
2 oranges and 1 apple. So when we arrive to this kind of situation where the marginal utility per dollar for the two products are the same, the consumer has already fulfilled one of the two conditions for utility maximization. Yeah? The first condition for utility maximization is when the marginal utility per dollar for the two products are the same. Let me show you the this is what we call the utility maximizing rule. Consumer allocates their income such that the last dollar or ringgit spent on the two products yield the consumer the same marginal utility. Yeah. So in other words, marginal utility for A divided by price of A equals marginal utility for B divided by the price of B. Yeah. In this example, both apples and oranges provide the consumer with 10 utils per dollar. Okay, so the first condition of utility maximization rule has been fulfilled. The second utility maximization rule is that the consumer finish all the money allocated for the purchase of the two products. Okay, so the consumer started with 10 ringgit and now the consumer have purchased 2 oranges and 1 apple. So how much money has he spent?
5 ringgit.
5 ringgit, right? So the consumer has yet to fulfill the second condition in which he or she spent all the income on the purchase of the two products. So in this case, even though the consumer reached an equilibrium, potential equilibrium position where the marginal utility per dollar are the same, but the consumer did not fulfill the second rule, which is all income should be spent on the two products. Yeah. Okay, so in this case, the consumer will buy both products and only spend $5 or 5 ringgit of income and has a remaining $5 and therefore should continue to buy more goods with that remaining 5 ringgit. So what next? So far we have 2 oranges and 1 apples. So the next decision would be either to purchase the third orange or the second apple, right? Look at your basket. You have 2 oranges and 1 apple. So your next purchase decisions would be either to buy the third orange or the second apple. So which one should we purchase? How much?
Sir, the slide is not
The
showing the
slide is
table.
not showing the table.
The table.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. So which one should we purchase?
Orange.
Orange.
The third orange will give us
9.
9 utils per dollar. However, the second apple will just give us 8 utils per dollar. So the third orange will be a better choice for us. So put another orange in the basket. Okay. Now we have 3 oranges and 1 apple in the basket, right? So the next purchase decision is either to buy the the 4th apple and
Or
either
orange. Orange.
either the 4th orange or the 2nd apple, right? 4th orange or the 2nd apple. So which one should we buy?
Both.
Both, because the 4th orange give the consumer 8. The 2nd apple also give the consumer 8 utils per dollar. Yeah. Okay. So put another orange and then another apple in the basket. So how many oranges and apples we have in the basket now?
4
4 oranges and
2 apples.
2 apples. Okay, remember the utility maximization rule? Number 1, the marginal utility per dollar for the 2 products are the same. So in this case, MU apples over price of apples are equal to MU orange over price of orange, which is both at 8 utils per dollar. Yeah, so it satisfies the first condition. Will it satisfy the second condition, where all income allocated for the purchase has been utilized?
Yeah.
Yes, right. So 2 apple cost the consumer 2 ringgit, 4 oranges cost the consumer 8 ringgit. Yeah, so altogether 10 ringgit has been spent. Okay? Okay, good. Now, please compute the total utility for this consumption bundle. Okay, so the consumer will decide to buy 2 apples and 4 oranges to maximize utility. So how much total utility will the consumer obtain from this bundle of goods? So 2 apples, total utility will be 10 plus 8, right? Okay. So because there is no column to show total utility, you need to add on. You need to accumulate the marginal utilities. So in this example, we have purchased 2 apples. So the first one gives us 10, the second one gives us 8. So 18 total utility from apples. How much is the total utility from oranges? Before this, we have used the marginal utility per dollar as the criteria to choose which one is a better purchase. However, when we want to compute total utility, we just take the marginal utility without any price adjustment, because we are computing total utility, right? So in this case, total utility for the 4 oranges would be 24 plus 20 plus 18 plus 16. Yeah, so all together
78.
78 from oranges and 18 from apples, right? So total utility from this purchase will be 96. 96, yeah? Okay, so far so good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Anybody would like to go shopping the second time?
No, thank
Okay.
you.
No, thank you, but we need to do it in order to derive the demand curve, yeah? Suppose that now the price of orange dropped to 1 ringgit. What will happen? The price of orange dropped to 1 ringgit. Now before this, we need to divide the marginal utility for orange by 2 ringgit. Now, since the price is 1 ringgit, then the marginal utility per dollar for oranges would be the same as the marginal utility figures. Yeah, for the first orange, 24 divided by 1, it will still be 24 utils per dollar. For second orange, 20 divided by 2, it will be, divided by 1, it will still be 20 utils per dollar. The third orange would be 18 divided by 1, 18 utils per dollar. Okay, so can you draw another basket? Now we want to see what will be the purchase decisions of the consumer when the price of orange in the market drop to 1 ringgit from 2 ringgit. So ready? Now,
Yes,
let's
sir.
start. Yeah. What would be the first purchase? The first apple or the first orange?
Orange.
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 24 is way larger than 10, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so marginal utility per dollar for the first orange is now 24. Yeah, it's not 12 anymore, right? So the decline in the price of orange has resulted in the marginal utility per dollar for orange to significantly increase. In this example, the marginal utility per dollar for orange basically doubles. Yeah? So put 1 orange in our basket. So 1 orange in our new basket. What will be the second purchase?
Orange.
Orange.
Still orange, right? Because the second orange give us 20 utils per dollar as compared to the first apple which only give us 10 utils per dollar. Okay, put another orange in the basket. So next, third orange or first apple?
Orange.
Third orange, because 18 utils per dollar is more than 10 utils per dollar for apple. Put another orange in the basket. The next one, the fourth orange or the first apple?
Fourth orange.
Orange.
Fourth orange will give us how much?
16.
16, right? As compared to first apple, only 10. Yeah. So put another orange in the basket. How many oranges we already have?
4.
4. Okay. So the next purchase, should we buy the fifth orange or the first apple?
Fifth orange.
Orange.
The fifth orange will give us how much?
12.
12. The first apple will only give us 10, right? So fifth orange. Put another one in the basket. The next purchase will be either to buy the sixth orange or the first apple.
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 The first
Apple.
apple will give us 10. The sixth orange will give us 6,
Six.
right? So we take the first apple. Put 1 apple in the basket. So only after 5 consecutive oranges, then only it will be worthwhile for the consumer to buy 1 apple, right? Okay. And now the next purchase decision would be to consider buying the 6th orange or the second apple. Right, look at your basket, right? Look at your basket. You have 1 apple now and how many oranges?
5.
5, right? So the next purchase decision would be either to buy the 6th orange or the second apple. Which one?
Second apple.
Apple.
Second apple will give us 8. 6 orange will only give us 6. Yeah? So another apple in the basket. Next, either to buy the third apple or the 6th orange.
Apple.
Apple.
Third apple give us 7. 6 orange give us 6. So another apple, third apple. Yeah. Okay, next. Either to buy the fourth apple or the sixth orange.
Take both.
Both. And we have reached a consumer equilibrium position where the marginal utility per dollar for apple, which is 6 for the fourth unit, is equal to the marginal utility per dollar for orange, which is also 6 for the sixth unit. Yeah, so we take them both and put one apple and one orange in the basket. So how many apples and oranges we have in the basket?
4 apple and 6 oranges.
Okay, so we have reached a consumer equilibrium point where marginal utility per dollar for the two products are the same. Do we comply with the second rule? All income is utilized?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, right?
Yes.
Right. 4 apples cost 4 ringgit. 6 oranges cost 6 ringgit. Remember, the price of oranges has declined to 1, right? So we have fulfilled the two conditions for utility maximization, where the consumer will maximize utility by purchasing 4 apples and 6 oranges. Okay, by the way, please remember to record your attendance, yeah? Everyone here, please remember to record your attendance. The passkey for today's attendance is already shared by Brother Zaim, yeah, in the WhatsApp group. Okay. All right. So let us compare the two scenarios that we have. Okay. In both instances, the consumer is maximizing utility. Yeah. In the first example, the consumer is maximizing utility. When the price of orange was $2, the consumer purchased 4 units of oranges. So we can put that in the demand curve there. On the y-axis, price, on the x-axis, quantity of oranges. So when the price was 2 ringgit, 4 units of oranges were purchased by the consumer. And when the price declined to 1 ringgit, we have seen that the consumer will purchase 6 oranges. So we have 2 points here. 2 ringgit, 4 oranges. 1 ringgit, 6 oranges. When we put there in the diagram, we have 2 points, and when we connect the 2 points, we will have a downward sloping demand curve. Can you see that in the diagram? Yeah,
Yes,
downward sloping demand curve. So in other words, we have actually proved that when a consumer maximizes utility, the consumer will buy more quantities of the product when the price is lower. And we have actually used the example earlier to show that when the price of oranges declined from 2 ringgit to 1 ringgit, consumers' quantity demanded for oranges increased from 4 units to 6 units. Yeah? We have proved the law of demand, which is the relationship between price and quantity demanded is inversely related. And from there, we are able to derive the demand curve for oranges in this example. Okay. So do you still remember what are the reasons for this relationship, the negative relationship between price and quantity demanded? Do you still remember? What are the economic justification for this? Remember the income effect and substitution effect?
Yeah.
Remember, right? Okay. Let us look at the income effect. when the price of oranges was 2 ringgit per unit, the consumer purchased 2 apples and 4 oranges, right? 2 apples and 4 oranges. Yeah, look at your first basket, 2 apples and 4 oranges. So when the price of oranges declined to 1, then if the consumer purchased 2 apples and 4 oranges, the consumer is only spending 4 plus 2, 6 ringgit. Yeah. So the fact that the price of oranges declined from 2 to 1 resulted in the consumer having more purchasing power. Yeah, because initially when he purchased 2 apples and 4 oranges, he has finished all 10 ringgit of income, right? But when the price of oranges declined from 2 ringgit to 1 ringgit, buying 2 apples and 4 oranges will only cost the consumer 6 ringgit. So he has a remaining of 4 ringgit to buy more apples and oranges. This is the income effect, the increase in the purchasing power as a result of the decline in the price of the product. The second one, substitution effect. Okay, let's look at the substitution effect here. Okay, remember when we do the first example where the price of oranges were $2 per unit. Yeah, so these are the decision making steps. Yeah, the sequence of decision purchase decisions. Yeah. So initially, remember, we purchased the first orange, and after that we purchased the second orange and the first apple. After that we purchased the third orange, and then after that we purchased the fourth orange and the second apple. Yeah, this is the steps or the sequence of purchase decision when the price of orange was 2 ringgit. But then when the price of orange dropped to 1 ringgit, what happened? You still remember? First purchase, orange. Second purchase, orange. Third purchase, orange. Fourth purchase, still orange. Fifth purchase, still orange. Right? In this example, yeah, the one that you can see on the slide here, the first purchase is orange. The second purchase is orange and apple. The third purchase is orange. The fourth purchase is orange and apple, right? So what happened when the price of orange declined? There is a substitution away from apples to orange, because when we purchase, the first purchase is orange, the second purchase is orange, the third purchase is orange, the fourth purchase is orange, the fifth purchase is orange. Only with the sixth purchase that we decided to buy 1 apple, first apple, and then second apple, and so on. Yeah. So it means that there is a substitution initially in the first instance where the price of orange was 2 ringgit. We buy apple with the second purchase and with the fourth purchase. But when the price of orange declined, we no longer buy apples in the second purchase and in the fourth purchase, but we continue to buy orange up until the fifth purchase. Only with the sixth purchase that we started to buy apples, because the marginal utility for orange has become too low since we have purchased 5 successive units of orange before that. Okay. Okay, so we have able to cover the first approach on the cardinal utility theory, where we assume that we are able to measure utility by using utils as an imaginary standard unit of measurement for consumer satisfaction. We have looked at how consumer use the concept of marginal utility per dollar to decide on which purchase would be the better value for money. we have also looked at the two conditions for utility maximization, which is marginal utility per dollar for the two products to be the same, and the consumer utilizes all income allocated to the purchase. And finally, we have looked at how with these two examples, we are able to prove the law of demand, the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded, and derive the demand curve for oranges. And finally, we are able to see the impact of this decline in the price of oranges and explain why the consumer is buying more oranges by using the income effect and substitution effect. Right, so thank you everyone. Any questions before we end our session for today?
No, sir.
Yes, okay. All right, so remember again, next class there will be exercises that you need to do on iTalim. It will open from 11:30 up to 3:30. Yeah, so a long time for you to do your exercise. And for this, you are able to refer to the books and other materials, as well as to discuss the solutions with your friends. Yeah, the idea is to improve your understanding and create incentive for you to read textbooks, watch the video lecture, as well as read the materials available for the course. Okay, if you have any questions, you can drop the message in the WhatsApp group, and inshallah I will try to reply to those in due time. Yeah, so thank you again until we meet again in future online classes. Ya, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Doctor.
Thank you, sir.